Hi, my name is Robert Duff, and I have a few things to say about recent police shootings that may have a mental health or neurological component to them. Despite my silly Power Ranger shirt, I do know what I'm talking about. I have a PhD in clinical psychology, and I specialize in what's called neuropsychology, which is basically understanding the brain and how that relates to different thinking skills and abilities. So there's a big part of this that I'm not going to address today, but I do want to acknowledge. There's an intersection between race, especially black people, and police violence that's going on right now that's very troubling. Too many black human beings that are unarmed are being killed by police, and that's something that does need to be addressed and does need to change. However, I want to talk about something related but slightly different to that, which is the intersection of police shootings and mental health or neurological issues. When I say mental health, I mean something like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, major depression, and neurological means something like epilepsy, dementia, a stroke, something like that, where there's an issue with the brain. Now, a lot of this comes down to language. Now, there's one really important aspect of language that I'd like you to understand, and that's called aphasia. Aphasia basically means a difficulty with language that can be expressive or receptive, meaning difficulty communicating your thoughts verbally, or difficulty understanding, comprehending what's being said to you, or it could be written form either way as well. So expressive or receptive. And this can pop up for a variety of issues. This can be from a stroke, this could be from a seizure caused by epilepsy, this could be a traumatic brain injury causing this, it could be a different sort of neurological disorder. Many people with dementia go on to develop aphasia, especially dementia of the Alzheimer's type, for instance. And basically it could be caused by anything that damages the temporal lobes of your brain, which is what governs language. Now, I don't want to touch too much on culpability, whether a person turned out to be, someone that could be harmful in the end, anything like that. I want to talk about what I've seen in the footage and the retellings of events that have happened recently involving police shooting people who may have a neurological disability or a mental health disability. Because what I've seen is a lack of education. The whole issue with aphasia is that somebody probably can't understand what's being said to them. Now, you need to make sure you understand this completely, okay? That means that an inability to appropriately comply with verbal directives is not the same thing as non-compliance. Anybody with aphasia, especially the receptive kind where it's difficult for them to understand what's being said, has an even more difficult time when the situation is elevated, when the pressure is on, when people's speech isn't the most clear. So if you think about it, from however many yards away, when someone's yelling at you to do something and you're having difficulty understanding them, that's only going to be exacerbated by the circumstances, and it's going to be even harder for you to appropriately comply. And somebody with aphasia might not understand exactly what's being said. They may know that they're in trouble somehow. They may know that they're being asked to do something, but not clear exactly what that is. So show me your hands, show me your hands. They may understand hands. I know that I should be doing something that tells the police that I'm not trying to shoot them. So what should I do with my hands to show them that I'm not doing anything? Maybe reaching into your pockets is a logical solution, right? Raising your hands to the police is a culturally bound behavior that exists because of the society that we're in. But in reality, showing your hands and putting your hands in your pockets aren't too dissimilar. They're both getting your hands out of the picture, right? So somebody with aphasia might not really understand what's being required of them, and reaching into your pockets could be a sign that you're trying to comply. Again, it's not appropriate given the circumstance, but the inability to understand the language of what's going on may inhibit their ability to do the appropriate thing. And so as they continue to approach, no, take your hands out of your pockets, take your hands out of your pockets. Again, oh, I'm doing something wrong. It has to do with my hands. Maybe I should take my hands out of my pockets. Maybe I should do something else with them. And then they take their hands out of their pockets very quickly in a threatening manner, and maybe they're shot, right? So you can see how a receptive aphasia could create a lot of difficulties in compliance. A good way to address that would be to slow things down if possible, right? Speak slowly, clearly, not at such a distance, and not assume, unless there's a reason to, that this person has a weapon or something like that. I'll get to that in a second, the whole assumption that this person is dangerous. But just acknowledge that somebody who has a neurological condition, somebody who has had a stroke, somebody who's recently been in a car accident, somebody who has had an epileptic seizure, somebody who has dementia of some kind, or MS, or any other neurological disability that might cause aphasia, they may not be capable of fully complying with your verbal requests. So that's very important to understand. Now, another thing related to language is the language that's used by police officers, by dispatchers, by 911 operators. There's a line of research out there that shows that language really influences the way that we perceive things. There's a really classic research study where people are required to view the same video of a car accident. Later on, when they're interviewed about it, if the interviewer uses certain key terms, it makes the person recall the event differently, and they rate the severity of the crash differently. So for instance, if they say collision versus crash versus accident, that makes a different sort of emphasis on how bad the crash was, and they will actually, in their own mind, objectively rate the crash differently depending on that language used. So therefore, I think it's really important for police officers, dispatchers, etc., to be descriptive with their language. So when you say someone's behaving erratically, what does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything in and of itself. It means that they're not behaving normally. Of course they're not. But erratically is a loaded term, right? Someone behaving erratically might put you on guard and make you think of a certain type of behavior. That may or may not help in the situation. Oftentimes what we're finding, I think, of course, I haven't researched this in particular with what's going on right now, but my gut is telling me that the language used helps to prime officers thinking that there is danger that's going to happen. Of course, officers need to be prepared and ready for anything. They need to be on guard. Their lives are at stake. However, using that language doesn't help any. It elevates things. So when you use behavior like erratic, a bad dude, big bad dude, whatever the language was, things like that, you're really priming the people that are going to be going into this situation and dealing with them firsthand. What I suggest is very simple. Requiring that dispatchers, police officers, and other people in positions like that use descriptive language. So not being allowed to say, this person's behaving erratically. Instead, say, this person is walking in and out of traffic, or this person did such and such thing. Using behavioral language to describe what's going on. For instance, as a psychologist, I can't just write in my note, this person was happy, or this person was angry at me, or this person was upset. I have to write behaviorally. This person was upset as evidenced by them crossing their arms, furrowing their brow, and taking a more aggressive tone of voice or something like that. So you have to use behavioral evidence to justify what you do as a psychologist. And I think that using that expectation for people who are in law enforcement or similar occupations can be very helpful. So being descriptive with the language, if you do use a broad qualitative term like erratic, having to use some sort of descriptor to justify that. So recognizing that people who have had any sort of neurological disability might have aphasia, they may not be able to express themselves or understand what's being said appropriately in the way that you would as a normally functioning person, and challenging yourself to use descriptive language instead of using loaded terms that sort of create a heightened sense of danger. Those things might help a little bit in regards to excessive police violence, police shootings of people that may or may not have a reason to be shot. Now, as I said before, there's a whole intersection with race that I haven't touched on. That is something that is a huge problem, but maybe this can help take some of the edge off of some of the cases. It's just something to think about. So let me know what you think. If anybody out there has had a brain injury or some sort of disability where they've had a temporary state of aphasia, tell me what you think. Tell me how you would have reacted if somebody was approaching you in an intense, law enforcement situation. Would you be able to comply the way that normal, quote, normal people would be able to comply or not? If there's anybody out there that has a situation that they can reference, please let me know. I'd be very interested to hear it. So please like this video, comment on this video, share this video, help it get around to more people, help people understand that there's a difference between not being able to comply due to a neurological disability and being non-compliant, because maybe at some point it'll save a life if the right person hears it. Thank you.